Welcome to the Kilgrey online tutorial to get started with memoQ. In the fifth module of this 10-part series, we will look at how to use the QA checker. We will show you how to use the QA checker to find and correct mistakes regarding numbers, terms, punctuation and so on. This module will take between 10 and 15 minutes to go through. At the end, there will be 3 questions to test your understanding of the topics that were covered. During translation, you will probably now and then see a yellow flash icon when confirming a segment. The flash icon shows that the QA checker found a possible mistake in the translation. This could be an inconsistent number, a missing tag, or similar. You can customize the things memoQ is checking, and you can run the check either during or after translation. This presentation will show you how to do the following. Set up the QA checking options and run the QA checker on a document and work with the error list. Let us take a look at the default settings the QA checker comes with. Open a project and in the project home screen go to the settings area. Select the QA checker icon. The list of QA checker profiles will display the default settings. This default comes with memoQ. It cannot be changed but has to be copied or cloned to be edited. Select the default settings. To create your own set of QA settings, click on the Clone Use New link. Default settings cannot be edited, as they come again with each update of memoQ. Thus, any changes you would make to the default settings would be overwritten with every update of the program. When you click on the clone link, you need to enter a name for the new checking profile first. You can create QA settings per client if they have specific things you should check. You can also create QA settings per language pair, as there might be checks that only apply to one target language. You can also create QA settings in levels. The first level of checks for the most important things, the second level of checks for less important things, and the third level of checks for things that are nice to have, but will only be done when there is enough time in the project. Select the QA settings profile in the list you wish to edit and make sure it's activated as well so that you can use it later on during translation. Then click on the edit link. The Segments and Terms tab is set up to check if terms in your term base have been used during translation and if forbidden terms have been used. In this tutorial, we can only describe the default settings in the QA checker. Please refer to the online help for more information on the other checking options. The QA checker will check if the same segments, that is repetitions, have been consistently translated with the same translations. The QA checker will also check if numbers in the source and target segments have the same values and if the format of the number has been adjusted correctly. For example, that in a translation into English, the decimal comma has been changed to a decimal dot. The QA checker will check if spaces have been used correctly before and after punctuation marks. You might want to add the options for checking for the same punctuation mark in the source and target segment, as well as the one for the missing brackets. The QA checker will check if there are sequences of spaces, additional spaces at the end of the segment, and if the source and target segments are consistent in capitalization of the first letter. Which means that if the source segment starts with a small letter, memoQ expects the target segment to also start with a small letter. The QA checker will check if tags are missing or have been added and if the tags are in the correct sequence. The QA checker can also be configured to include a spelling and grammar check. The spelling and grammar checking options for each language can be set in the options that you can access via the Quick Access toolbar. Please note that in order to run a grammar checker for example the one included in Microsoft Word, needs to be installed on your computer. Once your QA checker has been set up and activated for the project, you might see the yellow flash icons appearing when confirming a segment. This means that the check has found a possible mistake. Some errors are marked directly when you confirm a segment. You will see a yellow flash icon beside the segment pair. Double-click the flash icon to view the list of error messages. Here are the error messages on the numbers. One of the numbers is incorrect in value, and the format of the number is also not according to the default of the target language. Edit the segments and correct the mistakes. If there are no real mistakes, check the Ignore box for the message. Ignored messages will show up as a blue flash icon. Another way of viewing the list of error messages is to hover with your mouse at the upper right-hand corner of the preview pane. When the buttons for Preview and Review appear, click on the Review tab. The list of messages for this segment will be shown in the Review pane. If you take a look at the segments 1 and 5, you will then realize that the translation is inconsistent. This kind of error message will only show up if you run the QA checker on the whole document. To run the QA checker on the whole document, go to the Review ribbon tab and select Quality Assurance Run QA. There are some options for the QA checker. Here you have to set up the scope for the QA check you want to run. It could be just the document you are working on at the moment, the so-called active document, but you could also run the check on all documents in the project or all documents that are opened in the translation editor. Once the QA checker has finished, you will see the flashes on all the segments that might have a mistake in them according to the settings in the QA checker. In addition to your Translation Document tab, you will now also see a tab with a list of error and warning messages. For each error in the list, you will see the error message and, if possible, also an indication on how it can be corrected by memoQ, with a click on the Apply Automatic Correction link. There are two ways to correct the segments. You can correct the segments here and confirm the change, or you can double-click the error message, which will take you back to the document. When you correct a segment in the messages list, click on the Confirm link or use the key combination Ctrl-Enter to save the changes to the TM. As the list of errors only exists as long as you have the project opened, you might want to export the list of error messages. Click on the Export button to save the list of error messages to an HTML file. The HTML file lists the details from the error messages list and an overview over the types of errors that were encountered. You can also freely mark things in the translation editor with highlight colors or reject whole segments if there is a mistake. To mark a whole segment as rejected, for example when you are working as a reviewer, click inside the segment and then click on the Reject icon on the Review ribbon tab. The segment status color changes to red and the icon changes as well. To mark a part of a segment with a highlight color, select the text and choose one of the highlight colors from the list under Mark Text on the Review ribbon tab. The text gets highlighted with the selected color. This concludes the module on the QA checker. The next module in this series will show you how to do an alignment and how to use the alignment results during translation. On the next slide, we will ask you some questions that will help you to test your knowledge on QA settings in memoQ. Here comes the quiz. First question. What can the QA checker do for you? The possible answers are: the QA checker can check if the translation is linguistically correct. The QA checker checks for consistent use of translations, numbers, tags, and so on. Or the QA checker checks only numbers? The correct answer is the QA checker checks for consistent use of translations, numbers, tags, and so on. In fact, the QA checker can check all those small things that we might overlook during proofreading. Second question. Can you edit the default QA checker settings? The possible answers are: no, these settings are protected. I have to copy them, that is to clone the settings first. Yes, I can adjust the default settings, or yes, but I can only add checks, not deactivate any of the default ones. The correct answer is no, these settings are protected. I have to copy them, that is to clone the settings first. Third question. When does memoQ apply the QA checker? The possible answers are: most checks are run as soon as I confirm a segment, but I can run it separately again at any time using the Run QA command from the Review ribbon tab. The QA check only happens when I close the document, or the QA check happens as soon as I start typing a translation. The correct answer is: most checks are run as soon as I confirm a segment, but I can run it separately again at any time using the Run QA command from the Review ribbon tab. Thank you for watching this tutorial. The next module will show you how to do an alignment in the Live Docs area and how to use the results for translation. This tutorial was created with memoQ 2015. The tutorial was created by Loctimize for Kilgrade Translation Technologies.